A money trail that led back to the very case Henry and his team were working to unravel. It's all connected, Quan muttered to himself. Everything. But there was more. A name. A business partner. And the image of a suitcase. One that had disappeared the night Tucai's father was killed. Back at the hospital, Tucai stirred in her sleep. Her dreams were jagged flashes of light, the sound of rain on tin, a scream and a man's voice saying her name. She woke with a gasp. Henry was already beside her. What is it? I saw something, she whispered. From that night. He leaned closer. What did you see? A suitcase. Someone took it. I don't remember their face. But it wasn't a stranger. Henry's expression darkened. You're remembering. I knew the person. I think I trusted them. He nodded slowly. Then you're closer than ever to the truth. She looked up. Why does it scare me so much? Because the truth always does. That night, as the city quieted and the lights dimmed in the hospital corridor, Henry stood by the window and made a call. Quan, he said. We need to find that suitcase. I know, Quan replied. I've already started digging. Whatever you find, Henry said, keep it between us. Understood. And Quan, Henry added, his voice low. If what we suspect is true, if Tucai's past really connects to the shell companies, then she's in danger. There was silence on the line. I'll protect her, Henry said. You always do, Quan replied. Henry hung up and looked back at Kentucky. She had fallen asleep again, her face peaceful, the bandages still covering her wounded eye. But there was something different in her now, something stirring beneath the surface. A strength, a buried truth, a story not yet finished. He walked over, pulled the blanket higher to her chin, then sat back in his chair and whispered into the dark. Whatever it takes. I'll get you through this. Outside, the rain began to fall again. But inside, for the first time in a long while, it felt like a promise. The morning sun filtered through the curtains, casting soft shadows over the tiled floor of the hospital room. Henry was already awake, sitting by Tucai's bedside with a notebook in hand, quietly reviewing notes from the night before. His eyes darted between scribbled clues, timelines, and names, trying to piece together the puzzle that had consumed his team for months. Tucai stirred under the blanket, blinking slowly. Her injured eye was still bandaged, but the swelling had gone down slightly. You're awake, Henry said gently, setting the notebook aside. She nodded. Did I sleep long? Long enough. The doctor said rest is the best medicine right now. She looked around the sterile room. It's strange. Being in a place like this. I feel safe, but I also feel trapped. Henry offered a faint smile. That's the paradox of healing, isn't it? Sometimes we need to stay still to move forward. She turned her face away. What if the eye doesn't recover? What if I never remember everything? You don't need to remember everything, he said. Just enough to be free from it. She paused, letting his words sink in. Then softly, I keep seeing flashes. A suitcase, my father's voice rang. Henry leaned forward. That's something. You're remembering. It always ends the same way, she whispered. With silence. Henry reached out and gently took her hand. We'll fill in that silence together. There was a knock at the door. Mr. Quan entered, slightly out of breath from climbing the stairs. I found something, he said quietly, nodding toward Henry. Henry excused himself and stepped out into the hallway with Quan. I traced the name that came up in the photo, Quan said, handing Henry a folded piece of paper. He was a former partner in Tucai's father's business. But after the murder, he vanished, changed identities, moved provinces. Guess what he owns now? Henry scanned the note. A logistics company? A ghost one, Quan said. On paper it's clean, but the people it connects to dirty as hell. Henry clenched his jaw. So she really is connected to our case. There's more, Quan added. That suitcase you asked about? A witness claims it was last seen with a man named True. Henry's eyes narrowed. The one who disappeared 5 years ago? That's the one. Henry folded the paper tightly in his fist. Find him. I don't care how long it takes. Back in the hospital room, Tucai sat staring at her reflection in a handheld mirror. One eye visible, the other hidden beneath gauze. She touched her cheek softly and whispered, "Who are you really?" Henry returned shortly after and placed his hand gently on her shoulder. "How do you feel?" "A little stronger," she replied. "A little more scared." "Fear is a good sign," he said. "It means you know what's at stake." She smiled faintly. "You always say the right thing." "I try," he said, his eyes kind but distant. "But I don't always know what I'm doing." "You seem like you do." "That's just the disguise." Outside the room, nurses moved through the hallway with calm efficiency. The world continued turning, unaware of the small truths being unraveled inside room 302. Later that afternoon, a new doctor entered. This one was an ophthalmic specialist from the provincial capital. He introduced himself and proceeded to examine Tukai's eye with professional detachment. "The inflammation has reduced," he said after a few minutes. "But she'll need a corneal procedure. A minor one, but urgent." "Will she be able to see again?" Henry asked. "If all goes well, yes. Vision won't be perfect, but functional." Tukai looked down, a mixture of relief and fear swimming in her expression. "I recommend we schedule the procedure for tomorrow morning," the doctor continued. "She'll need to stay under observation for 48 hours after." "Understood," Henry said. "Do it." As the doctor left to file paperwork, Henry turned back to her. "You're going to be okay." Tukai let out a long breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. "What if I'm not ready?" "You don't need to be," he replied. "That's why I'm here." The rest of the evening passed in a soft hush. Henry cooked rice porridge in the shared hospital kitchen and brought it to her with a side of pickled vegetables. They ate in silence, the tension between them replaced by something deeper, trust. Later, as the night drew close, Tukai said, "I keep wondering why you're helping me so much." "Because I couldn't help someone else," Henry said quietly. "Not in time." She looked at him, waiting. "She was close to me," he continued, "and I failed her. I promised myself I wouldn't fail again." Tukai's lips parted, but no words came. Instead, she placed her hand over his on the edge of the bed. "You didn't fail me," she said. "You're the reason I'm still here." And for the first time, Henry didn't look away. That night, as she slept, Henry stepped out onto the hospital balcony. He called Quan again. "I need a copy of everything you have on that man," Henry said. "Every address, every alias." "You planning something?" Quan asked. "I'm going to pay him a visit." There was silence on the other end. "Be careful," Quan finally said. "This isn't just a missing suitcase anymore." "I know," Henry said. "It's a war." He hung up and looked out at the city skyline. Lights flickered in the distance. Somewhere out there, the man who ruined Tukai's life was living freely. But not for much longer. Back inside, Tukai stirred in her sleep. She murmured something unintelligible, then settled again. Her hand reached for the side table and brushed against Henry's notebook. The final page had a single line written across it. "Sometimes the only way to heal is to uncover what broke you." The morning began with the soft echo of footsteps and distant voices in the hospital corridor. The air was cooler, and the silence carried a sense of gravity. Today was the day of the procedure. Tukai sat upright in bed, dressed in a pale blue patient gown. Her fingers fidgeted with the edge of the blanket, and her lips moved silently, repeating something to herself like a prayer. Henry stood by the window, arms crossed. He didn't say much. He didn't need to. His presence alone was an anchor. The door creaked open and the ophthalmologist entered, clipboard in hand. "We're ready," he said gently. Tukai nodded, eyes focused forward. Her fear was evident, but her resolve outshone it. Henry stepped forward. "I'll be right outside." As the nurses wheeled her out, she turned her head slightly and whispered, "Don't go anywhere." "Not a chance," he replied. The hallway seemed endless, the fluorescent lights overhead flickering like they carried secrets of their own. Henry watched her disappear behind the double doors of the operating room. Then time slowed. For hours he sat in the waiting area, flipping the same page of a magazine without reading a word. His thoughts weren't in the words, they were behind those walls with her. "Mr. Quan arrived mid-morning, holding a brown folder. "I have everything," he said. Henry took the folder but didn't open it yet. "How long will she be in there?" Another hour, maybe 2. Henry sighed. What's in here? Quan leaned closer. True, the man with the suitcase. He's been living under a new identity in a rural district near the northern border. Owns farmland now. Keeps quiet, avoids cameras. But locals say he's always nervous, watches the road constantly. Henry clenched the folder. That means he's afraid. Or guilty, Quan replied. Does he know we're onto him? Not yet. Henry exhaled slowly. Good. Let's keep it that way. Back inside the operating room, Tukai drifted in and out of consciousness, the soft beeping of machines surrounding her. Somewhere between the haze of anesthesia and the clarity of pain, she saw it again. A glimpse of a rainy night, her father shouting, a suitcase snapped shut, and a voice whispering her name. She tried to chase the voice, but it disappeared. When she awoke, her throat was dry, her head heavy. The bandage over her eye was new, tighter, and stung more than before. But Henry was there. He was always there. How did it go? She rasped. Henry leaned forward. The doctor said it went well. You'll need to stay still for the next 2 days, but there's a strong chance you'll regain partial vision. She closed her eyes and let out a shaky breath. Thank you. You did the hard part, he said. Tukai reached for his hand but missed slightly. He guided her fingers until they found his. Their hands stayed that way for a while, quiet, still, bound by more than obligation. You're trembling, he noticed. I had a dream, she said. Or maybe a memory. I saw him again. My father. And the suitcase. Henry froze slightly. Do you remember who took it? She shook her head. Not yet. But I think the answer is close. Henry gently pulled a chair closer. There's something you should know. He hesitated, then handed her the folder Mr. Quan had delivered. This man, he said, pointing to the photo clipped inside, was your father's business partner. After your father died, this man disappeared. Changed his name. We think he took the suitcase. Tukai stared at the image. He looks familiar. His name now is Tran Din. Her face hardened. Then he was there that night. We think so, Henry confirmed. And he may know why your father was killed. Tukai held the photo in her lap, her fingers brushing the edge. Why would he hide if he didn't do anything wrong? Because he did, Henry said quietly. There was a long pause. Then let's find him, she said. You've just come out of surgery. I don't care, she replied. I need to know the truth. Henry gave a small smile. Rest for now. When you're stronger, we'll go together. The next day passed slowly, with Tukai growing more alert, more restless. Her eye throbbed, but she welcomed the pain. It meant she was healing. That afternoon she asked for a mirror. Henry hesitated, then handed her one. She peeled back the edge of the gauze, just enough to glimpse the corner of her eye. The sclera was red, irritated. The cornea still too cloudy to see through. She didn't flinch. Instead, she whispered, It's not as bad as I thought. Henry knelt beside her. You're stronger than you think. She looked at him. So are you. Late that night, when the hospital lights dimmed and the sounds of machines hummed into a sleepy rhythm, Henry and Mr. Quan met in the courtyard beneath the fig trees. I booked transport to the border village, Quan said. We can leave in 2 days. She won't want to wait that long, Henry muttered. She shouldn't be moved yet. I know, Henry said. But I don't think she'll listen. Quan nodded. Then you'd better be ready. Henry looked up at the moonlight breaking through the clouds. I already am. Inside, Tukai sat awake in the dark, holding the photo of Tran Din. Her memories were coming back in flashes now. Sounds, smells, faces. Nothing solid, but enough to stir the ache in her chest. She traced the man's eyes with her thumb. I remember you, she whispered. And I'm coming for the truth. 2 days later, the hills near the northern border were drenched in rain. Henry drove slowly up the winding path, the old truck rattling beneath them. Tukai sat beside him, wrapped in a faded scarf. Her vision was still blurry, but her thoughts had never been clearer. I'm ready, she said, her voice steady. Even if you don't get the answer you want? Henry asked quietly. She looked out at the fog-covered road. I'm not here for revenge. I'm here for the truth. And maybe peace. They arrived at a small wooden house nestled between tall bamboo and broken stone walls. Chickens clucked nearby. A man sat on a low stool, sharpening a blade. He was older now, slower, but when he saw Henry approach, his eyes widened. "Tran Din," Henry called out. The man stood quickly, but his legs betrayed him, trembling. "I have nothing to say," he muttered. "I think you do," Henry said. "About the night Tukai's father died. About the suitcase." The man's face twitched when he saw Tukai step forward. "You," he whispered. "You survived." Tukai didn't flinch. "You were there, weren't you?" The man swallowed hard. "I didn't mean to hurt anyone. I took the suitcase because your father was going to expose the whole operation. We were all going to lose everything. So you took the money," she said, "and let him die." "I didn't kill him," he said quickly. "That was someone else. I just ran." "Who?" Henry asked sharply. "Who else was there?" Tran Din looked at the ground, then up at the sky. "You're already chasing them, aren't you? The network. The fake companies. The gang that launders the money through medicine and construction." Henry's eyes narrowed. "Give me names." "I can give you more than names," the man said. "I can give you documents. Copies I kept just in case. Hidden here." As the rain picked up, he led them to a hidden compartment beneath the floorboards. Inside were 2 old ledgers, a USB drive, and a weathered photo. Tukai's father, Tran Din, and a third man whose face was circled in red ink. Tukai stared at the photo. "That's the man," she said softly. "The one in my dreams." Henry took the files, tucked them carefully into his coat. "You'll come with us," he told Tran Din. "You'll testify." The man nodded slowly. "I think it's time." They returned to the city that night, soaked and silent. No one spoke on the drive back. Everything that needed to be said had already settled in their bones. At the hospital, Tukai sat with the ledgers in her lap, running her fingers over her father's handwriting. Henry stood beside her. "You did it. You got your answers." She looked up at him. "Some of them." He smiled faintly. "The rest will come in time." Tukai placed the files on the table, then took Henry's hand. "You've done more for me than anyone ever has," she said. "But there's one thing I still don't understand." "What's that?" She looked at him with her healing eye, still cloudy but focused. "Why me?" Henry was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "Because when I found you, I found myself again." Tukai looked down, then back at him. "And now?" "Now," he said, "it's up to you. You're free to go wherever you want." She nodded slowly. "But maybe. I don't want to go alone." He didn't respond. He just reached for her scarf and gently adjusted it around her neck, like someone who planned to stay. Outside, the rain finally stopped. The clouds parted, and somewhere in the distance, justice began to stir. Not everything was healed. Not everything was fixed. But it was a beginning. And for Henry and Tukai, that was enough. It was early morning, and the air was still wet from last night's rain. The mountain mist clung to the rooftops, whispering secrets between the wooden houses. Henry stirred from a sleepless night. His body had survived, but his mind was heavy with thoughts of betrayal, survival, and the girl they had found. "How are you?" a familiar voice asked from behind the cracked door. "I thank you, comrade," Henry replied, voice calm but alert. "I'm still healthy." The visitor stepped in, his eyes scanning Henry's condition before continuing. "I heard they exposed your identity, threw you into the river." Henry nodded slowly. "Fortunately, I escaped. I didn't expect to. The 2 doctors on the mountain found me. They brought me back." There was a long pause. The truth settled between them like dust on an old floor. "That incident," Henry said gravely, "proves one thing. Our project has been exposed." His comrade shifted uneasily. "Yes, we face something much more sophisticated now, and larger." "Your suspicion was correct." Henry looked down at his bandaged hands. "Our tactic of impersonating CEOs, that tactic's been compromised. The higher-ups have sent others. They're coming down to support us." He leaned in, voice low. "We need a new strategy. Something quieter. Something no one will notice." "I'll help you crack this case," the comrade said firmly. "We'll propose a new approach. But for now, tread carefully. Outside, rain began to fall again, soft and rhythmic against the roof. Somewhere in the back room, a girl stirred in her sleep. I've gathered a lot of information about ghost companies. Gangster groups too. I'll find the most accurate sources. I'll make sure our team is updated immediately. Henry nodded. I believe in our cooperation. Together we can solve this. He stood and walked toward the old wooden door, now barely hanging from its hinges. Should I fix this for you? The comrade asked. I already did, ma'am, Henry replied with a soft smile. It's secure now. The older woman from inside stepped out, her eyes warm but tired. This Henry, she said to her neighbor. He's something else. Skilled kind. A real gentleman. And not just smart here but educated abroad too. Henry chuckled and scratched his head. He's good at everything, the woman continued. And he still worries for others. Even after all that's happened. Her voice lowered. He fixed our house during this storm. After what he's been through, he still found time to help us. I feel so embarrassed. So ashamed that we can't repay him. She looked off toward the hills. But I heard grandfather stayed to protect the money. We still lost it. Henry paused. If I can't get our family back, the woman muttered. What's left? An empty house with no peace. She sat down slowly. I was too careless. I still can't figure out who took it. You don't have to think anymore, Henry said softly. We all know who it was. Her eyes darted to his. No one else could have done it but him. That man who dances between heaven and hell. Not my kids, she asked, her voice shaking. No, Henry replied. It wasn't your children. She lowered her head. Henry, she whispered. That man. He didn't just steal money. He stole peace. You only helped. You gave medicine, you repaired the house. You looked after food, clothes, everything. Her voice grew sharper. You did all this while he destroyed what we had. She clenched her fists. And I still can't name him. I hate this. Don't guess anymore, Henry said. That money is gone. But you still have a future. The air shifted as someone entered from the courtyard. It was the girl to Kentucky. The one they found injured in the hills. Her face was pale, her steps small. But there was a warmth behind her eyes. I've finished fixing the door, Henry said, looking at her gently. Thank you, she replied. It feels safer now. Yes, he said. Wherever you go, lock it tight. No one can enter again. He turned to her. You mentioned the medicine box was broken? Yes, it cracked while I was packing things. I didn't know how to fix it. Bring it here, he said. I'll repair it. He took the wooden box and began working. As he tightened the hinges, the woman spoke again, her voice softer now. I think she's getting better. Henry glanced up. These past days she's been more calm, sleeps better, less afraid. But it's been such a difficult journey. Ever since we found her on the mountain, barely breathing. Henry said nothing, focusing on the box. She's almost recovered. Her memory, almost normal again. But she's afraid. Afraid of involving you. Henry looked up slowly. I think I know what she's thinking, he said. She doesn't want to be a burden. The woman nodded. She's ashamed. Her face, her eyes. A tear slipped down her cheek. I feel sorry for her. But her eye, her right eye, I'm afraid it's too late to save. Henry paused. Even so, we can try. A new voice entered from outside. Sir, I may not know Tukai well, but I want to help her. A young man entered holding a cloth bag. This girl is in pain. Her condition is serious, especially the eye. I have contacts, doctors. I'll call one to examine her. Henry stepped back. Thank you. I've done what I can, but I know my limits. Please, the young man said. Let me bring the doctor here. Henry nodded. Downstairs he made the call. Upstairs, Tukai sat quietly, her hand resting on the medicine box Henry had fixed. Later that afternoon, a car pulled into the muddy yard. A middle-aged man stepped out, wearing a clean white coat and carrying a small case. Doctor, this is Miss Tukai, Henry introduced. The doctor approached the bed, asking gently, Miss, could you lie down for me? She obeyed, turning toward the window. My right eye, she said. I can't see well. It's blurry. The doctor leaned in, examining her with care. I look up. I look down, she murmured. But it's fading. After a long silence, the doctor stepped back. This cannot be treated at home, he said with finality. She needs to be taken to the city. To a hospital. Is it that serious? Henry asked. If not treated soon, the doctor warned, there will be permanent scarring. She could lose the eye completely. The room went still. Tukai said nothing. Her face was calm, but her fingers trembled. The doctor turned to the others. Please arrange for her to be taken in tomorrow. I'll send a report to ensure the hospital knows what to do. As he packed his case, Henry stood by the window, deep in thought. His comrade stepped close. There's something I need to discuss, he whispered. About to Kentucky. Henry turned. What about her? Her father, the man said quietly, was a businessman. He was murdered. And I suspect it's connected to our case. Henry's eyes narrowed. I'll dig deeper, the man promised. Just give me time. Henry nodded. Do it discreetly. No one can know. And with that, a storm began to rise again, not from the sky, but from the secrets they had just begun to uncover. The wind picked up outside, brushing the banana leaves against the roof as Henry watched the doctor's car disappear beyond the muddy slope. The weight of responsibility clung to his shoulders. Behind him, Tukai sat quietly, still digesting the truth. Her eye, her future, her place in this uncertain world. In the dim room, an old man sighed. Henry, we love that girl. But love means nothing without money. What can we do? We're too poor to help. Henry turned to face him. We can talk to my brother, the old man added quickly. He's been generous before. Maybe he can help now. I'll try, Henry said. I'll do what I can. We've borrowed chickens, borrowed a dog. The man laughed bitterly. Even our word carries no value now. We have no credit left, Henry. The woman stepped closer, her voice steady but cracked. He's been like a son to us, this Henry. He's never asked for anything, but he's given so much. Henry said nothing. He just looked at the corner of the room where Tukai sat. I know you're worried, the old man continued. But let us handle this. We'll find a way to repay everything. You need to focus on getting her treated. That's more important. Henry finally spoke. I'll find the best hospital. The best doctor. I promise. Tukai shifted on the bed, her voice trembling. I'm so sorry for the trouble I've caused you all. No, the old woman replied gently. You don't have to say that. Tukai looked down. You've all done so much and I feel like I've only brought pain. Don't think that way, Henry said softly, kneeling beside her. You've been hurt. That wasn't your fault. Tukai turned away. But it was because of me you all had to worry. You had to pay for doctors. You had to carry this burden. Henry reached for her hand. You're not a burden. You're a person we care about. Tukai looked up. Her eye was clouded, but something flickered behind it, hope or perhaps disbelief. I'll accept whatever happens to my eye, she said, even if I can't be healed. Don't say that, Henry whispered. Let me help. She hesitated. You still don't trust me, he added. And I understand. No, she said quickly. It's not that. I'm just afraid. Afraid to take more from you. Henry gently squeezed her hand. Then let me give, not because I have to, but because I want to. In the hallway, the older couple listened quietly. The woman wiped a tear from her cheek. She reminds me of myself when I was young, she whispered. She's strong, the man replied. She's been through too much, but she's still standing. Henry stood. I'll arrange for her to go tomorrow. The doctor said waiting would risk everything. Tukai looked out the window. If it weren't for you, I'd be blind already. The silence was thick but not heavy. It was the silence of mutual understanding, the kind that comes from people who've seen pain and still choose to stay. Later that night, Tukai sat by the stove boiling herbs. The smell of medicine drifted through the house. I'll go out to collect more firewood, Henry said, grabbing a coat. Wait, Tukai said suddenly. Can I come? He turned surprised. Of course, if you feel strong enough. She nodded. Outside, the forest was cool and damp. The sounds of frogs and distant birds filled the air. "Do you remember anything yet?" Henry asked as they walked. "Bits and pieces," she replied. "But some things still feel like a fog." "Maybe that's for the best," he said. She paused. Do you know who I am?" Henry hesitated. "I know who you are now." She smiled faintly. "That's enough." As they gathered branches, she suddenly winced. "What is it?" Henry asked, rushing over. "My leg," she said. "I think I stepped wrong." He knelt and checked her ankle. "It's okay. Just a twist. Let me carry you back." "No, I can walk." "I know," he said. "But let me just this once." She let him lift her. In his arms, she felt the strength of someone who didn't carry her as a weight, but as something worth protecting. Back at the house, she rested while he checked her foot again. "You'll be fine tomorrow," he said. "Just rest tonight." She looked at him seriously. "Henry, what are you hiding?" He looked startled. "What do you mean?" "Sometimes. It's like you're thinking about something you can't say." Henry took a breath. "There are things I need to fix. Things from my past. But I promise you, they won't affect you. I'm already part of your world now," she said. "You saved me. And you gave me a reason to stay," he replied. The next morning, sunlight cut through the window in streaks of gold. Lythieuca sat at the table eating slowly. Her mood had shifted. There was something steadier in her. "You slept well?" Henry asked. She nodded. "Better than ever." Outside, a knock came at the door. It was Mr. Kwan, returning with another guest. "The doctor's back," he said. A new doctor entered, this one younger, more clinical. "Please lie down," he instructed Lythieuca. She obeyed, and he began his examination. He said. "This isn't good." Everyone leaned closer. "There's a corneal ulcer. If untreated, she may lose vision in that eye permanently." Gasps filled the room. "You'll need to bring her in immediately," he continued. "This cannot wait. I'll make the referral." As the doctor prepared to leave, Henry stood near the window again, eyes watching the far hills. "Mr. Kwan," he said quietly. "Stay back. I have something important to discuss." "Yes." "Investigate her background," Henry said. Discreetly. "There's something about her father. I think it's tied to our mission." Mr. Kwan nodded. "I understand. And the suitcase incident?" "I have a lead. It's still vague, but I'm working on it." Henry turned back to Lythieuca. She was sitting quietly, her gaze distant. He approached her slowly. "I'll take you to the hospital," he said. "You've done too much already," she whispered. "I haven't done enough." Her voice shook. "I just don't want to trouble you anymore." "You're not a trouble. You're the reason I'm still here." She said nothing. "I know you're afraid," Henry said. "But I'm not going anywhere." She finally looked up. "Then, I'll trust you." "Good," he smiled. "Now go rest. Tomorrow we leave early." Outside, the clouds parted for the first time in days. A sliver of blue sky peeked through. Inside, despite the pain, despite the uncertainty, hope had begun to grow, like wildflowers pushing through cracked stone. The next morning broke with a cold breeze whispering through the valley. Chickens crowed in the distance. Lythieuca sat near the window, gently rubbing her temples as she tried to recall flashes of memory that kept slipping away like smoke. Her hand trembled when she touched the scar near her eye. It wasn't just a wound. It was a mark of all she had lost. Henry stepped in, holding a warm bowl of rice porridge. "You should eat," he said softly. She looked up, eyes tired but grateful. "Thank you. I added herbs to help with the swelling," he said, placing the bowl in front of her. "You'll need strength today." As she ate in silence, Henry glanced at the bag he had prepared. It contained everything they'd need for the trip to the hospital: documents, some savings, and a small handkerchief embroidered with a rose. He didn't say it, but it was hers. He'd kept it the day they found her collapsed on the mountainside. An hour later, Mr. Kwan arrived, helping Henry load the supplies onto the back of the truck. As he lifted the last box, Kwan leaned in and whispered, "I found something." Henry looked at him sharply. She had a father. He was a respected businessman, but he was murdered. The case was never solved. Henry's eyes narrowed. "Go on." The more I dig, the more it connects with the economic shell companies we're chasing. I think there's more to her past than she even knows. Henry clenched his jaw. Keep investigating. Quietly. Inside the house, Tukai watched them from the doorway. She could sense something was wrong. Her heart pounded not from fear, but from the heavy truth she didn't yet understand. Are you ready? Henry asked as he re-entered. She nodded slowly. I'm scared. You don't have to be. I'll be with you. They set off down the winding road that led to the city hospital. The truck bounced over uneven paths, through fields of cassava and old banana trees. Tukai leaned against the window, one hand resting on her lap, the other gripping the seat tightly. Henry, she said after a while, why are you doing this for me? He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he kept his eyes on the road, the tires crunching through gravel. Because someone needs to, he said finally. And because I want to. She stared at him. But you don't know me. I know enough, he replied. And I believe you're worth helping. Tears welled in her eyes. Not from pain but from the unfamiliar feeling of being protected. They reached the city by mid-afternoon. The hospital was large and impersonal, the kind of place where people became numbers. But Henry insisted on speaking to the head ophthalmologist himself. Please, he said. She's urgent. The nurse took one look at Tukai's bandaged eye and nodded. Come this way. Inside the examination room, the doctor, a tall woman in her 50s, inspected Tukai's eye with a small light. You came just in time, she said. Another few days and the infection could have reached her optic nerve. Tukai winced as the doctor applied ointment. Will I go blind? She asked. The doctor paused, then looked at her directly. Not if we start treatment today. You're lucky. Henry breathed a sigh of relief. She'll need to stay here for several days, the doctor added. We'll monitor the response to treatment and determine if further surgery is necessary. I'll handle all the arrangements, Henry said immediately. When the doctor left the room, Tukai turned to him. You didn't have to do this. Henry smiled gently. I know. She took his hand. Thank you. Later that evening, he helped her settle into the hospital bed. The room was small but clean. The sunset cast soft orange light across the walls. Rest, Henry said. I'll stay nearby in case you need anything. She looked at him for a long moment. You remind me of someone. Someone from before. Maybe it's the way I care too much, he joked lightly. She shook her head. No, something else. Something deeper. Henry didn't press her. He just nodded. That night, Henry slept on the chair beside her bed. He didn't leave, not even once. He watched over her like a silent guardian, as if protecting her was the only thing that mattered. Meanwhile, back at the village, Mr. Kwan made calls from a small dark room. Files were spread out before him. Among them, a faded photograph. Tukai as a child, standing next to a man in a gray suit. Her father. The documents were damning. Shell companies. Bribed officials.
Right to be so full of vitality and joy after such a short time. She described it, her travels around the world with sparkling eyes, and her plans for the next year with a joyful smile. What a contrast to how I was. Phyllis had been so open with me. I felt encouraged encouraged her to ask her, "Did you ever feel like you were just waiting to die?" I don't mean to. I don't mean to die. I just mean feeling like all you were doing was going through the motions with no filter and no purpose. Um, she emphatically stated, "No, no, never." I must have looked incredulous because she shared the following story. When she was a little girl, her family lived in Java, where her dad was an executive with Shell Oil. One day, Japanese soldiers came to the door and took her dad away with a bayonet pointed at his back.